Welcome back to another Neuroglancer tutorial and protocol update. Today, I'm going to be talking about the new update to the protocols for can't trace to Soma and ripped area. So, long story short, can't trace to Soma will now be receiving the backbone proofread label. So the backbone proofread label previously not given to can't trace to Soma, we will now be giving the backbone proofread label to can't trace to Soma tagged neurons. Pretty simple. That's the update for can't trace to Soma, making sure that it receives the backbone proofread label. Moving to the ripped area update. As you can see, there are some changes. So in addition to the true ripped area and destroyed data that we're used to seeing, such as the large tear in the central brain, we will be adding the peripheral nerve region as fundamentally the same as ripped area for tagging purposes only. And the important piece here is any neuron tagged ripped area should also receive the backbone proofread label. So ripped area is going to receive the backbone proofread label. Can't trace to Soma is also going to receive the backbone proofread label. So when we tag a cell as ripped area, whether it's true ripped or peripheral nerve regions, we will be using the backbone proofread label for banc-bot and the ripped area tag, obviously, in the sheet for that segment. So remember to make sure those are all proofread before you submit a backbone proofread label, just because you can't trace it due to the damage or due to the cell leaving the brain. Doesn't mean that we avoid proofreading it altogether, just that, this is going to be a ripped area. Let me just make sure whatever is available for me to proofread is still fully proofread. So ripped area is going to get the backbone proofread label, and can't trace to Soma is going to get the backbone proofread label. So with that out of the way, I want to get into some examples, and I'm going to start with the ripped area. So some of the IDs in the sheet are outdated, or if you come across an outdated ID in the wild, you're going to want to make sure that you pick and, really separate apart all these specific neurons. So one strategy I suggest is you just start selecting and deselecting it. As you can see, we got one. This is the cell that it used to be. So we're just going to bring that back up. And we're going to keep doing this until we find all the cells that have been worked on. So it looks like we got a large cluster here. So that's probably where we're going to be working from. Let's just make sure everything that is separate starts separately. And you can tell if it's separate because you'll get this pattern. That means that they're overlapping meshes. But if it doesn't have that pattern, then you know that it has been separated. All right. That looks pretty good. So with the updated protocol and knowing now that the ripped areas should receive a backbone proofread label, let's do some quick maintenance on these cells to make sure that all the ones that have already been done for us are actually submitted to banc-bot. So that looks like everything. If it's not everything, we're going to find everything eventually. So let's just start here for now. And the first thing we're going to do is let's get rid of the, not the red one, but we'll get rid of that one. So this red one, let's take a look. If we were to guess this is probably not fully proofread in the complete sense. So considering it came from a seed cell which contained all of these, so we know that at least something needs to be proofread here. It's probably this, but considering we don't know, we can't rule out that it could be any of these, right? So we can see some stuff has been traced here. This tip we check seems good. And we can just keep doing this until we are sure that it is proofread to the standard of the assignment. And, we can even get rid of the 3D if it helps via the space bar. Mitochondria, not needed. This is a merged mitochondria, so let's just get rid of that. Not 100% need to be done, but because it is so quick, might as well do it anyway. This is a very small piece, not necessarily indicative of unproofread status, but still worth investigating in case it leads to a larger connection. So just toggling off the alpha there in order to get a better look at the EM images. We can see a little bit of something going on here, but there's a border, so this is probably just merged bubbles there. And as for the 2D search, I'm about to call it quits here. Well, let's take another look at the 3D and just sort of size it up to the other things. So if we account for the angle, right, the tilt, since the starting point for all these things is kind of here, and some are scooched up, right, so they don't have as far to go as this one. So accounting for the tilt, these kind of all line up in the same region, so we can assume that it probably doesn't keep going, unlike this cell type or that cell type. So this is probably pretty good, just overall morphology. So with that assessment, we're going to take the coordinates here, and we're going to go to banc-bot, and we're just going to ask banc-bot real quick, does the segment here with these coordinates have a proofreading tag? It does not. So we're going to take the coordinates and we're going to give it backbone proofread. So by using the coordinates, we avoid this error, which you can see right here. I don't know which cell this was, but at the time, it gave this response no anchor point. So if a ID is fresh and has no anchor point in the database, then applying the backbone proofread label to the ID won't work, and coordinates will work every time. So we just skipped the ID step and went straight to the coordinates as a way to smooth out the workflow. As you can see, the backbone proofread label was uploaded successfully, and that's one down. So now that we know this one is good to go for the seed ID from the task list, we can remove that. And you'll do the same thing again for this one. As you can see, this shape of the purple is almost the same as the pink. You might be able to get this longer piece, but it is not necessary. If you've seen the other protocol video, cutting it here is completely acceptable. There's not many connections to other neurons from here down. So these two could also receive that label. So given that, let's pretend we give it a label. This one also fairly good. We'll just pretend we checked it. Same with this one, although this one could possibly continue. So, make sure to check all these, check that it continues, all that good stuff. Give it the ripped area tag. And then when it has the ripped area tag, make sure to submit it to banc-bot with the backbone proofread label. This one looks really weird. So I don't know if I believe that this Soma attaches here. So I'm just going to check this quickly. And it may or may not. I'll probably look at this one after the video. It's always fun to find an interesting neuron. So had this been the seed ID that I was working from, the first thing I would do using the protocol in the previous video would be to separate this segment from itself here, this segment from itself there, and so on and so forth. Proofread all of, from here up. Make sure to submit those IDs to the banc-bot, or the coordinates rather. And then in the task list, you can say ripped area, and then in the notes, say, bundle of sensory neurons. I uploaded, 10 to banc-bot or something. That way, it's noted in the sheet that many neurons were obtained from that one task, and the ripped area still applies, and all is well. So same would go for these two other clusters and other ones such as these. But let's talk about some mistakes or traps that we might fall into that are unrelated to the sensory types. So sensory types are pretty easy to distinguish because of the peripheral nerves, right? But as you can see in this region, there are no peripheral nerve indicators. So these are tagged ripped area in the sheet. So part of reviewing or validating whether or not a cell is ripped area is going to start with now this peripheral nerve layer, since it very quickly tells you if it's ripped or not. And then the second level is going to be to check in the 2D if there is, a true rip, large tear, that type of thing, or if it's more of a can't fix situation. So in this situation, it looks like, let's take a look together. This cell was just outdated. So the proofreader traced this, and you could see that it is essentially complete. And if I were to guess, this is where it leaves the data set, or it leaves the brain. And this is the ripped area. So correctly, this was labeled ripped area. With the new protocol in mind, we now know that this cell can be taken over to banc-bot and submitted with the backbone proofread label. And then we would have this large cell available and all of its connections in the database, which is good to do. So that's one more example. And taking a look at this one, we can see it falls into the same category, leaving out this way. Looks like lots of different branches here. So let's just refresh the ID. Look around for anything. Obviously, we still want to proofread everything. Looks like some damage here, but this is not ripped area damage. So this connection could be followed. Whether or not it yields very much is yet to be known. As we can see, it connects to this cell. So this is where you would use your proofreading prowess to make some conclusions about whether or not this piece connects to this, or if this piece connects to the red cell. So to the best of your ability, give that a shot. As you can see, we can check this one real quick. This is some type of axon, and the connection goes this way. We turn the alpha off. We can see that the connection is quite smooth with these vesicles, and there, that connection is also quite nice, so that is fine. So if the connection is good that way, then we can reliably say that there's some broken part here. And we can see there's a little bit of very thin connection there. That's probably an indication of some issues, as well as this perpendicular branch. Maybe this cell goes up in this way. So use your best guess here, following that segment we originally clicked. We can scroll through here. There's a few jitters and jumps. Passes by some other similar segments going in the same direction. And it continues to go until it hits this place, which is right there. And that connection's pretty strong too. So this would be a difficult branch. Judging from where it is, so if we think about this thicker branch as the backbone, this thinner branch shooting off from the main branch, we know that anything that shoots off of the backbone is generally going to be smaller. As you can see, these branches are not necessarily small, but this might be the quote backbone of this offshoot, and this might just be a branch kind of like this. So this could be small enough that it could be ignored, but if you're a completionist, as I am, I love to trace these difficult areas and really get into where they're going. And I believe this path might be the actual path. So let's take a look at that. As you can see from here, I'm looking at this mitochondria as sort of a guide. So our sort of pancaked cell here with a little bit of ER that just barely glides against the surface of this axon. And as it squishes down, it's hard to determine the difference between this piece and this, but this longer flat piece is right up against this piece. So this larger piece, much easier to track with the eyes. As you can see, it's here. Here's a long, flatter thing. This sort of smaller shape we can see is possibly that shape right there. So long, flat thing, similar looking thing. And then we arrive at this right there. So this falls into the category of the type of branch we were expecting, which would be something about that size. So I'm already pretty confident that this is the way and that is not the way. And because we traced this from here to here and there was no obvious place where it broke, one thing we can do to help increase the confidence of this branch is to backtrace. Instead of from here to there, we go from here to wherever that goes. Since we now believe it doesn't go here, we can eliminate that as an option and use the same sort of strategy. So we get a thinner, flatter piece here, squished between these two longer ones. Here's the two longer ones. There's the thin, flat one. Then we can double click that. As you can see, that leads to this branch. So using the same principle that this is the backbone, this is a branch coming off of the backbone. So branches coming off this should be approximately that size. We can see that a branch about that size is expected for a branch like this. Now, we've run into the main problem of all tracing, is this branch part of what it's already part of, or is it part of ours? I would say this branch is part of the pink. So in this situation, the protocol is to find the branch for the teal one, and it can continue to cascade like this, but I would imagine we're close to the end here. So let's use the same strategy. This is a long, flatter piece. There's a long perpendicular or parallel plane cut axon. So we're following this. We got this guy sort of jutting upwards as well. So here, I believe, is the piece. If we turn off the alpha, it might help. So here's another helpful mitochondria we can keep our eye on. There it is, right up against the longer piece, which is touching that smaller piece. And from this frame to that frame, we can track this longer piece and possibly this piece right here. So it's about that size. It's going up close to that. Scroll past the damage, then this thing appears there. So here, there's not that there. There's whatever this is, but that's going that way. Then there's sort of this dark circle. Then it's really difficult to tell where it went, but it's not just going to disappear. So maybe it's this, and this is, or maybe it's that, right? So let's just take a look at what this is, and that is a small dust piece, which is good in this case because that means it's not connected to a large thing like the rest of these connections. And just tracing this normally, we can see that this is a smaller type of branch, which goes up, falsely curves that way, but we're not too concerned about that. And it seems to go into this axon, but I imagine it does not end there. Usually it ends in a bouton, like this. So this bouton is probably the end point, using the same logic we used for the red going to the lime green and the pink going to the teal, and then the teal going to this smaller branch ending in a bouton. Considering this is the backbone, this turn right here and this representative similar branch is actually almost the same size as that branch. So good to compare what you find with what already exists as just a helpful rubric to see, as a sanity check, whether or not what you found even makes sense for the cell that you're combining it to. So in this case, you have, by proofreading a ripped area cell, you've added the correct branches to the correct places, and you affixed 3 different things at once. Now, the things that you fix, those are fine to add what you found and to subtract what shouldn't be there in order to make your cell more complete. So make sure to go ahead and do that. And then, yeah, so just keep proofreading. And when you have finished, yes, it is still technically a ripped area, but this is also important. So this highlights why the ripped areas are being tagged as backbone proofread now, because when y'all do this, you're essentially finding everything that can be found. And that cell is still important to have its data in the database. So by doing this, we're going to have a lot more cells in the database, and we're going to be able to see all the connections between these ripped area cells and the other currently backbone proofread cells. So I hope that example for ripped area was helpful. We'll take a pause here, and then I'm going to jump to the can't trace to Soma and the can't fix after that. So because we touched on some difficult connecting, I won't do so much on the can't fix examples, but I will begin now to talk about the can't trace to Soma examples. So the Soma typically doesn't have any synapses on it. So what we have here is essentially the completed cell. And with the new protocol, we will send this to banc-bot. So given that, you give it a once over, make sure there's no extremely obvious extra branches or anything. Check all the tips of the ones that are suspicious to you. And then once you've done that, give it a chance to look for the Soma. I sort of cherry picked these two. These were the first two can't trace to Somas that I looked at, and I was able to find the Soma to both of them. I don't have the links here, but I do have them in the sheet on my second monitor, of which I will drag them into the viewport soon as I find them. So here it is. And I also have this one. So let's just get a little zoom out here while it loads. We're going to refresh the page. Now, here are two examples that will help you in finding the Soma and converting a can't trace to Soma to a done or some other tag, depending, right? Say maybe you find the Soma, but it's, still a can't fix or something. Or you find a Soma and it's a ripped area because it's a efferent neuron. This is more of a Soma finding tips and tricks portion. So, just when you look at it, looks pretty good. When you examine it, it's, well, the only reason it looks good to me and why I would connect these in this situation is because when you select all the cells that flow in the same direction, all right, and we're only going to keep ones that have their Soma in the same place as this one and are not extremely different. So this teal one's too different. That one's too large. This one too long. So here we have some cells that look basically the same as our cell. As you can see, there's one type here that sort of synapses in this location, and another type that has more broad arbors that synapse further up. Our cell, which I changed the colors of, is this green one, purple one. It's one of these ones. We might have actually removed it. No, it's the blue one. Okay. So let's bring those back. All right. So removing those. You can see why I removed some of the ones because it gets a little hairy to see what you're actually looking at. So we know it's the blue one. It's a darker blue. Let's just change the colors here a little bit. Is that, oh no, it's the purple one. My mistake. So we have a light purple. We have a bright pinkish purple. And then we have, let's just change the colors again. There we go. All right, that's much better. So as you can see, the orange one and the red one is our cell now. And then we have the blue one, and then there's the yellow soma. And when we had all those other cells up, every single cell had a soma except our cell. These cells look very similar to our cell, so we could say they're probably a similar cell type. And when you just look at it like that, it's the only soma path that exists, that's possible, that isn't already attached. And this is the only top part of an incomplete cell that doesn't have a soma. So we can pretty safely say that this soma belongs to this cell type that we've compared to with other cell types in the region. And they all terminate with their somas in a similar place. So it's a pretty good chance that this soma tract goes to this cell. So yeah, I did not use the 2D very much for this. I only used the 2D to look for the general flow of these neurons, then selected them all just like I showed. And then I found this piece and I was like, oh, that's pretty convenient. And also very helpfully, I did not find any other top pieces that were missing a soma. So it was like, I got one of these and one of those. Let's put it together. So that's that scenario. They're not always going to be that simple, but that is one strategy. Then we have this one. So this one is a cascade change that happens when you do locate the correct path for your soma. So this was that pink one from before, this one over here. And when I look at this, my immediate thought is that the soma tract is somewhere from here to here. And it's probably right next to this. So usually when they have that thickness and then get thinner, that means that this, like the width would not necessarily get smaller unless part of it was coming off, right? So in my head, I'm thinking, okay, it's probably right along the side of this. So let me just scroll through. Then I saw, okay, this is what this person was dealing with. I can understand why it'd be very hard to find the soma tract like this. Obviously, here's a break, right? So I checked the breaks, everything looks good. And if we go back over to here, you could see, I did find the path and it did split off right where it starts to get thinner. So if you combine this with that, you can kind of, not exactly, but sort of visually see it's a similar thickness up here if those were merged together, right? So like if this was one thing, similar thickness, right? And it follows it all the way down, pretty, intensive to find. But if what you do is similar to the other finding the soma tract, you kind of just click on things, right? The bigger ones are going to be the big guys. But you can find something that follows the same path and then look, oh, where does that thing soma go? Well, it goes over here. Okay. So we know that our soma is going to do something like that, go down this way and then go over here. So along this path, when the 2D loads, you can see, there's a couple of things, and you can use the other cell's soma tract as a guide and sort of follow that and look for any, paired up neurons going in a similar direction together and be like, hold on a second, that looks suspicious. Investigate it. Then you'll find, this track, this orange one, unrelated. Well, related in a second. You're going to see why. And then you find this. And then this is where the cascade happens. So you're tracing the purple one. Everything's great. But then you get to this little subtle jump and you're like, oh, okay, it's right there. But you click that one and you're like, hold up, that's my Soma. This one is attached there. So now you have to be like, okay, well, where's the orange one go? And as you can see, the orange one jumps up as well. And the green one, same situation, jumps up as well. And then this is the other orphan Soma track. As you can see, it's just the track. Which leads to a Soma. But we know that one's not ours because ours is this one. So what we have to do is just cut this Soma off, cut that Soma off, cut this Soma off, and then sort of re-stitch this one to here, this one to there, this one to there, and that one, the other orphan, to there. So that's how you would deal with the cascade. Finding the Soma, again, if you don't find it, it's totally okay. Still do look for it and make sure that everything else is well looked at. And then add the can't trace to Soma label. Or if you're feeling it, definitely give it a shot. Try to find the Soma track using the context clues of the neurons in the vicinity as a template to help you fix the cascade or fix whatever issues happen along the way. Sometimes it's disappointing. You get to like right here and you still can't find it. So it's still a can't trace to Soma, but you did your best, right? So if we do our best, there's nothing to worry about. After that, can't trace to Soma, submit to banc-bot, the backbone proofread label, and you're good to go. So hopefully those examples highlighted the new protocol. Essentially, to wrap up the protocol section, that the protocol is now the ripped area. Definitively will be getting the backbone proofread label, as well as the can't trace to Soma should also be getting the backbone proofread label. Now, if you would like some general proofreading tips that I have been sprinkling in between, we also have some can't fix labels that I want to show you guys, as I was able to fix some of these, not all of them, but some of them. So let's take a look. Here is, I believe it's this cell. Yes. Okay. So this cell is a optic lobe cell, and this orange piece was where this cell ended. And I've worked on a lot of these transmedullary cells. So it's going from the medulla, I believe, and it's going through the chiasm in the middle and then into innervating in the lobula and lobula plate. So what's nice about this type of neuron is it's very small compared to the very large neurons going up and down the neck or across here, or maybe occupying a huge amount of space. So these are all in columns in the medulla. So there's going to be a bunch of these all over the place. And because of that, as you can see, there are a bunch of these all over the place. So we can just click on a bunch of these and get all the neurons in the column and sort of get a sense of the shape of what we're dealing with here. So now you can almost see this is the medulla, this is the lobula plate, and that's the lobula, or maybe it's this way. One of the two. So we can get rid of the cells here that do not look similar to our cell. Here we have a TMY cell. I think they call it a Y because of this sort of Y shape at the bottom. So it's transmedullary, and then it's like a Y. And our cell has this thing, right? So possibly we are, I think I just got rid of the correct trace. We are a trans or TMY cell. So let's, with that assumption that we just made by selecting those other cells, let's investigate that. Also, this connection could be traced a little bit extra. But as we know, these frills at this layer, this is probably layer 7. And this is probably like, I don't know, some other layers. No, maybe this is layer 4 and this is layer 7 and that's like layer 8 or something. But that's just like the layer in which a lot of these visual optic lobe neurons tend to synapse in. So believing with our hypothesis that it's a TMY cell, as I found this connection, I first tried to make the cell go this way. But when you look at it, the cell's main backbone wouldn't go this way, right? Because all those other cells, none of them did that. They all sort of had a branch that did this and then mostly continued that way, right? The lobula plate is thinner, so there's just more area to be occupied in that direction. So if you look at a bunch of cells and take the average of the extensions from this point onward, there's just more often than not more neuron over here than there would be over here. So tracing this, I was able to find not much. It's probably some smaller connection that leads to some smaller thing that becomes, I don't know, a smaller type of bouton. So we did our best there. We have, I think that's a little bit of a merger there, so that could be cleaned up, but not super duper important. So I was like, well, if it's not here, even though I didn't necessarily believe that it was, but you have to check it anyway. I was like, well, where is it? So I know, so that I started checking here because that kind of looks like, right, like maybe this just opens up and goes that way. But this connection here, I'll zoom in, is pretty definitive, right? You can see the ER from this slice is here, then it's here, then it sort of gets pushed over into this mitochondria, and then it continues to go. So we are here. And if I turn on a little crosshair, it's a little bit easier to see when you're zoomed in, that the ER continues. And if we follow the ER, it goes down here, like how we were checking, but also there's this part. So I started to check that, and it indeed still has the ER in it. So that is a good indication that it continues for quite a while. And with these other cells here, we can see more cells. Well, at least this cell continues in a similar way. And whatever this one is as well keeps going. So this is a typical path for this type of neuron. And luckily, I believe this is only a few pieces, maybe 5 pieces. So like this, then like this piece, and then maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And it ended in a bouton, which is always a good sign, as we know. Or did it? Is there more? Okay, no, that's just a separate thing. So maybe this little piece. So yeah, we could take a look at that, but it looks like that is just some merged extra stuff that maybe starts there. But good to make sure that that is separate. So there we've taken a can't fix and converted it into a done. This type of cell, once you get used to this type of cell, where it's just Soma on a string, something happening here or there, or maybe a little bit higher up, more stuff going, it's either gonna go this way or that way, or both. It becomes easier to tell. There are 800 of each of these specific types as well, and there are many different subtypes within a type. So, yeah, if you do like 800 of these, you'll be good to go, or at least you'll be able to recognize. Oh, okay, I know that there should be more. It's probably just very thin, and there's not usually any damage in these regions. There is some, difficult area stuff, but if you were scrolling quickly, you could definitely miss this. And if you were, just looking at like this, you'd be like, okay, well, is it over here? Well, it's not really over there, but it doesn't look like it should end here. So just use your sort of gut and say, okay, what else is happening around? Do the sort of clicking around method. Be like, okay, well, if things are going that way, let's just check over there. And try to make a case for whatever looks strange but goes in the correct direction, right? So that's that tip for this one. Let's take a look at some other ones. We'll do one more. All right. This appears to be a can't trace to Soma, but I believe this received a can't fix tag. Yeah, so if this happens to you, and I could see why it might, this sort of larger or this thicker extension ends here, which might make you think, oh, it probably goes like for a while over here. And if you look at the brain mesh, it's in the central brain. Things in the central brain are usually quite large. So this is another one where it helps to sort of click around and see what else is going on around this. So that's sort of the main strategy. So let's just get some friends here. And as you can see, of the whatever these three we selected, this one probably not going to be helpful. But the other two are starting to help paint the picture of what we should expect from this cell. They're pretty central to here. They're not spanning multiple regions per se. I know there's lots of sub neuropills within this, but what we're looking at here is that most of, this one's a little bit too big, but this pink one, I mean, it does look different, but if you sort of grabbed this pink one and squished it in your hand, it might look something like this. So most of this is probably done. And instead of can't fix, this could be a can't trace to Soma. Now, when we look at the structure, I was able to find the Soma, but as you can see, I found a bunch of other stuff too, because I was also like, maybe this is much larger. But sort of, after giving up trying to find where, this large mysterious region is that I expected to find, I found the Soma path instead. And by doing that, I sort of did in reverse what I just showed you. I was like, hold on. And I clicked around and I found other similar things. And I was like, okay, I think this is just a squished cell that lives here. And when it's sort of a stockier, with a thicker width and shorter branches, that's when you typically get this sort of dense axonal boutons that just sort of go like, I occupy this region. I only synapse here. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to live right here forever. For whatever reason, just to anthropomorphize the cells a little bit. And by doing that, we can sort of do the same can't trace to Soma math in our head, right? So if this is very thick and the branches that come off of it are thinner, then as we can know that the branches that come off of that will also be thinner. But this is not a branch that's coming off of the cell. This is just the backbone continuing. So it gets thinner here, or less thick than here. So that's a good indication that somewhere from here to here is probably where the soma starts. And it might be out this way, but we know that they like to hug the sides here, and that is when we found the soma tract, which maybe it's this. Is it this? We have to find it again because I lost it. Is it that? It's over here somewhere. This one? There it is. These things are tricky. So as you can see, right there is where we're getting it. It's not connecting to this, is it? That would be embarrassing. But you gotta validate it. Nope. Okay, that continues somewhere else. We're safe. So there you have it. Another example of a can't fix, which should have been a can't trace to Soma, was then turned into a done. So, if this is where you're starting, definitely give it some time. Definitely click around. Try to use these tips and tricks. And once again, just to reiterate, the protocol changes are as follows. Can't trace to Soma is now going to be submitted to banc-bot as backbone proofread, and ripped area, if you haven't already, submit those to banc-bot as backbone proofread. And if it's going into the peripheral nerve, it is now a ripped area, and those are also going to be submitted to banc-bot as backbone proofread because they are now the ripped area tag. And due to the new protocol, we submit those with the backbone proofread label. So I hope this helped. If you guys have any questions, please take a look at the proofreading tagging guide. And you can always message me or somebody else in Slack that you can get an answer to your question and hopefully submit some awesome cells with the backbone proofread label to banc-bot now that we can submit can't trace and ripped area. It's going to be a lot of cells all at once. So good luck, and I'll see you guys in the next video.